seasonings, smoking meat, and life updates. It is story time with Chris. Welcome back to Storytime with Chris. I know, it has been a while, and I apologize to the three of you who are currently subscribed to the channel. I'm sorry to have let you down and for taking all this time to finally make another video or another episode. So yeah, here we are. As you can tell by the title, I have a few things on the docket today. The most important thing that I'll be talking about today are my smoking recipes that I've discovered, and I'll get into that a little bit here in a second. Got a couple of life updates. Well, just kind of one life update right now. And what was the third thing? Oh no, I'm really bad at that. Oh yeah. And then a third topic, which I'll get into, I'm sure. And who knows? I don't really have a big plan today, but I wanted to get on here because, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's been a while since I've made an episode, and I really wanted to get back into it. And this episode might be a little bit shorter. It might be a little bit more on the random side, where I don't have a bunch of specific stories or topics to talk about. And it might go and it'll go wherever my heart desires, I guess. With that being said, this might be a shorter episode, and I'm trying to get a little bit more consistent with these. So bear with me. Life has been crazy recently, as I'll get into a little bit with the life update. And so yeah, let's get started. So one goal that I've kind of had this year is currently to try new recipes. And for those of you who know me, know that my amazing wife, got me a Pit Boss smoker last year for my birthday. So last year I was a little bit disappointed in myself because I didn't really use it as much as I would have liked to. And whenever I did use it, I kind of made the same thing, burgers, carne asada, some smoked queso recipes that I found. And so this year I've been wanting to use it a little bit more. And I will say that I have been using it a lot more than usual, but I haven't tried a whole lot of other recipes, but I'm still hoping to. There's still time for me. So I got 3 months left, and I'll get into some of the reason why I think I can reach that goal. So when I was, trying to plan this episode, one thing that came to mind was that for my birthday this year, my wife's family, whenever they give gifts to any of the in-laws and, each other, we're all adults, so we don't, really expect a lot of gifts or presents or anything like that. Usually we get each other, snacks and drinks, maybe sometimes, gift cards, depending on, if there are any circumstances or anything like that. So this year I asked the family that instead of doing any sweets for me or any drinks, I preferred to receive like spices, rubs, spice mixes, things like that. I had a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it would help to encourage me to try some new recipes, to, mix things up. And it also encouraged me to not, I have a really, really sweet tooth. So whenever someone gives me, my favorite snacks or treats, I struggle. I have to eat it. And yeah, I do lack a little bit of self-discipline there, but man, when someone gives me a Reese's, I am going to eat the Reese's for sure. So yeah, that's why I kind of asked for those. And while I was coming up with the idea for this episode, I was looking through my pantry to see, I had a couple of specific spices and mixes that I wanted to talk about that I've tried so far. And while I was doing that, I remembered, I noticed there's a little brown bag that my little sister gave me for Christmas. I think it was last year. But anyway, this bag it's like a rubs of the United States, and it comes with rubs. I think there's like a Texas barbecue rub. There's a Kansas City rub. There are like very specific rubs for different states. So you can try, that kind of style of food. If I wanted to make I think it's like Memphis ribs. Don't quote me on that. And I realized that I have to use those. And so my goal is to use those ones by the end of the year, because that would be awesome. I mean, we're currently in the middle of football season, so that's a good enough reason for me. I can make myself a lot of foods because my wife is a vegetarian. So, a lot of those, barbecue type foods, smoking meats and stuff, she's not going to really try, which is great for me because that means I get more. So, people always ask if it's what it's like not being vegetarian and having a vegetarian wife. And I think it's great. Because first of all, it's not that hard to make things vegetarian. And I think the easiest way to do it is literally just cooking your meat on the side. And I think that sometimes that can be easier. Of course, there are certain recipes where it's easier to mix everything together, but that's neither here or there. It works for us and it works for me because I get more meat. So yeah, I need to try those rubs that my sister gave me. Something that I'm going to do. This might be part of every, I'll update this as we go. So it might not be every episode that I talk about this, but I'm thinking about reviewing each of the rubs and mixes that my siblings gave me and just giving my thoughts on them. So today I have a few that I'm going to talk about. So the first one that we tried was the Grill Mates Chipotle Mix. I believe that's what it was called. I really don't remember the exact name, but it was a Chipotle mix. And my wife, she does eat chicken. If there is chicken, she'll usually at least try it. So we tried a Chipotle mix. We're going to do like a Chipotle burrito bowls, I believe, like a Chipotle style burrito bowls. And so when we were doing that, we tried this mix and I remember it was actually really tasty. And I found a recipe online for like a Chipotle sauce, and the Chipotle sauce was all right. But this rub, I think it was a Chipotle marinade mix. We marinated the chicken in there for at least an hour or two, then threw it on the smoker. Yeah, I remember they turned out pretty good. Not amazing, but they were good, and I think I would try it again for sure. This one we actually tried pretty recently. It was the Grill Mates Mojito Lime Marinade. Now, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know that I love pretty much every time I make tacos, I post about it because I love tacos and I love making tacos. It's probably my favorite recipe that I make, and I feel like I've nailed it because a few hours before, on the same day or the day before, I'll make the sauces. I know exactly what ingredients I need to make the sauces, and so I'll make them real quick. That to me is the worst part. Like, making the sauces just takes a while, and you got to wash the vegetables, you got to char the vegetables, and then you've got to blend it all together. There's certain little quirks with the recipe that make it a little bit more challenging. Like, for example, one of the salsa recipes requires chili de árbol, and if you overcook the chili de árbol, it kind of becomes bitter. So you want to cook it for enough time to give it a little bit of a smoky-ish flavor, but you don't want to cook it for too long that it becomes bitter, because then your salsa is pretty much toast. I've got that all down. That's my least favorite part. My favorite part is literally just cooking the carne asada. And for my carne asada, I used to make a marinade for it. It was Sam, the cooking guy. If you have ever watched him on YouTube, he is awesome. And I highly recommend watching his stuff because he makes some really good stuff. My wife actually got me his cookbook for Christmas a few years ago, I think. I don't think this recipe is in this cookbook, but it's his carne asada recipe. It's really good. But I kind of got lazy and I stopped marinating my carne. So instead, what I've been doing is I've been using the tequila lime Blackstone seasoning. It is by far my favorite seasoning for carne asada. And I'm pretty sure I'm almost out. So I need to go get some and I'll be right back. All right. I am back. I got myself some more tequila lime Blackstone mix. And while I was at the store, I bought myself a Blackstone. Just kidding. But those things have become very, very popular. It seems like in the last couple of years. I see them all over. Well, usually when I get on TikTok, I see some Blackstone stuff. But I actually recently joined a Facebook group for Pit Boss, which I guess officially means I'm old now. But there have been a bunch of guys talking about this. I think it's like Pit Boss's version of a Blackstone. You know, it's like a griddle. And I actually haven't done too much research into the Blackstone. Obviously, I know what it is. But my first search of the Pit Boss version of this griddle, I think it's just called the Pit Boss Griddle or something like that. I want to say the one I was looking at was a little bit cheaper than a Blackstone. And the cool thing about it was that you can actually detach it from, it comes on a stand, with wheels and stuff. But the Pit Boss one, you can apparently detach from that. And basically you have like a camp shot, those little what are the Coleman burners that you use when you're camping or when you go to the park and stuff. Sometimes people use them. Basically, you have your own nice griddle that you can take that's portable. So I guess we'll see if I end up getting one of those at some point, or if the Blackstone is worth the investment. I haven't done too much research into them. Obviously, I know what they are. I've seen some videos on them, and I know that I want one. So eventually I'll get one. But yeah, anyway, yeah, the tequila lime Blackstone seasoning. I think my father-in-law actually got me that for Christmas one year. And man, I am so grateful that he did, because that is my absolute favorite to use on carne asada. Last time that I made carne asada, I decided to try something a little bit different. One of the marinade mixes that my sibling-in-laws gave me was I think it was the Grill Mates Mojito Lime Marinade, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. So I got home from work one day, and so it was a little bit later in the day. I think it was almost 5, and I wanted to give my carne a couple of hours to marinate in this new mix to see how it is. And so I made the marinade, put the carne inside of it, inside the bag, and then the marinade and stuff. Anyway, once I pulled it out, I decided to also add the tequila lime spice mix onto it. And man, my first impression of it once I took it off the grill was that it was a little bit too salty. But once I mixed it, my mouth is watering just thinking about this. Once I mixed it, we made tacos, and once it was mixed with the onions and cilantro and fresh salsa, the saltiness kind of went away, and it was like full of flavor. And I'm not a huge lime guy. Like, I don't put lime on my tacos. I usually don't put lime in anything. But this time around, this marinade with the seasoning it was delightful. It was probably my best carne asada yet. Maybe a little bit too salty. There are some people who don't like a lot of salt. So when I make it for guests, I don't know if I would use both of them together. I'd probably either use one or the other, because I'm sure the marinade mix had salt in it. I didn't actually look at the ingredients because I don't really do that. So I'm assuming there was probably some salt in there, and there was some salt in the Blackstone seasoning. So probably just a little bit too much. Next time I'll do one or the other. Man, it was fantastic. And then I had that. Sorry, my mouth is just watering. I had that carne asada as leftovers for a few days at least. The next day, it was football Sunday, so I made smoked nachos, and I put the carne asada as a topping for that. The day after that, I think did I make a quesadilla? No, I made a breakfast burrito. Egg, carne asada, some fresh jalapenos from our garden, and I think a serrano from our garden as well. That was delicious. And then some of the homemade sauce as well. And then after that, I made quesadillas and used up the rest of the carne. So that is probably one of my favorite things about my wife being vegetarian. I get all the meat, but I also save a ton of money because I buy, one thing of meat and it lasts me a couple of meals. So, it's a lot cheaper than going out to eat and stuff, which I'm trying to slow down on because I got into a really bad habit of it, and I'm trying to get a little bit more fit, get back to my level of fitness and health. So yeah, anyway, went on a little bit of a tangent there. I love carne asada. I'm excited to make that in a couple of weeks. I think that's what is going to be on the menu for the 49ers Week 5 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, because that one is going to be streaming on Peacock, which my wife and I have, and I can actually host my family. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be on the menu, and I love making tacos. Oh, and one other rub that I got for my birthday. It was actually given to me by my work colleague, Ryan. And this rub has a very funny name, and it's also made by a funny named company. The rub is called Aw Shit, and it is by the Big Cock Ranch company, I believe. I'm not 100% sure of that, but you can find this rub on Amazon. And if you're into Cajun Mexican kind of flavors, this is your spice. This is your seasoning you need to get, because like I said, it's a Mexican Cajun style seasoning. It has a little bit of heat to it, and it is good on everything. I put it on those nachos that I made the other day. I put on my quesadilla that I made the other day that I just talked about. But my favorite thing to put it on are homemade wings. I actually have my own I found a recipe for homemade wings. I combine my own spices and I use that. I usually have a little jar of it that I use whenever I make wings. And this seasoning, oh man, my mouth is just watering thinking about all this food. This seasoning is just absolutely fantastic on wings. It is by far the best seasoning that I've had. And, I've tried a few on the wings before, but this is by far the best. And a couple of the wing sauces that I use whenever I make wings are the Buffalo Wild Wings hot sauce, and then the Cholula, I think it's just called wing sauce. Cholula wing sauce. I think you can find it on Amazon. They used to have it at Walmart, but I haven't seen it at Walmart for a long time. So, I highly recommend it, but losing my train of thought. I highly recommend the Cholula wing sauce. It is not the Mexicali wing sauce. That one is good too. It's not my personal favorite or my wife's favorite. We enjoy the other. I think it might be Caliente. So anyway, Google it, Amazon it, you'll find it. And try both. Why not, right? You might as well. Anyway, this seasoning pairs so perfectly with those two particular sauces, because those are the two we mainly use, of course. And I don't think I'm going to go back to my regular. I probably will at some point use my regular seasoning. That'll probably be when I'm waiting for my new shit to come in, from shipping. So yeah, anyway, that one's good. It's good on everything. Highly recommend. Thank you, Ryan. Best, my favorite overall seasoning ever. So, all right. And the last one that I want to talk about, I was gifted by Taylor and Megan. It is the Traeger garlic and chili pepper rub. Now, they gave me two Traeger seasonings, which honestly, I don't know, name brand, it doesn't matter. Traeger, Smoker Joe, what is it? Oklahoma Joe, Pit Boss, whatever you use is, whatever you prefer is the best, honestly. I personally am a Pit Boss guy. Say what you want about pellet grills. Works great for me and I love it. Anyway, this garlic and chili pepper seasoning I used on chicken thighs, and my wife isn't doesn't always want chicken. And so there was one day where I was like, I'm going to make chicken tonight. She didn't want any. And I decided to go away from chicken breasts. I have been wanting to try chicken thighs I've had chicken thighs before, but I wanted to cook chicken thighs for myself for the first time, because I've always heard that chicken thighs are a little bit more forgiving. They're a little harder to overcook. And I've always kind of struggled with chicken breasts. I don't know why. Sometimes I feel like I dry them out too much. Sometimes I feel like they're undercooked. And I've tried, the chicken breasts that I get from Smith's are usually pretty thick, so I have to slice them in half, and sometimes they come out uneven. So I wanted to try chicken thighs because I've heard really good things about chicken thighs. They have a little bit more flavor, and they're, not as hard, not as easy to overcook. In fact, I'll have to do some more research, but when I Googled, the temperature for chicken thighs, I actually saw that you can take take them up to like 180. And I think I got them pretty high. I think I want to say I got them up to 175 this last time, and they were really, really good. They were still nice and juicy and tender, and the garlic and chili powder was actually really good on them. The first time I made them, they were a little bit on the weak side. I didn't season them quite enough, but they reminded me of the, well, actually, I'll get to that in a second because I have a little bit of I'm going to make a transition with that. So anyway, yeah, the garlic chili pepper seasoning was really good as well. I made just a couple of recipes with it. I made chicken and rice, for meal prep. And then a few days later, I made chicken and rice and like black beans, and I made it to burritos. And the burritos were really, really, really solid. So yeah, highly recommend the Traeger garlic and chili pepper. I only had them on chicken thighs, but when you can tell when a seasoning is pretty good. So anyway, one thing that the chicken thighs reminded me of the first time I made them were those. Now you guys will have to bear with me. The Polynesian community is amazing. And one thing that they do really well is cooking food over coals. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but in Utah, I grew up on the football teams that I played with growing up. We usually had a lot of Polynesians. We have, quite a Polynesian community here in Utah, and it's awesome. There are some great, great people, great food. And one thing that sometimes they do, and I'm sure other cultures do this as well, but they have basically like a trailer where they have a bed of coals, and then they stick chicken on the coals on the, they basically make rotisserie chicken on the coals. I think there's probably a specific name for it. And if you know what the specific name is, please let me know, because I should probably know this. I'm going to try to Google it here real quick. Chicken, rotisserie, chicken over coals, Polynesian style. Let's see. Huli huli? Yeah, I think it's huli huli rotisserie chicken, at least based off my Google search. Huli huli chicken is a popular dish in Hawaii. The word huli in Hawaiian means to turn. This famous Hawaiian barbecue chicken is traditionally marinated, then grilled over a fire on a rotisserie or spit. So, huli huli. So yeah, this... at my new job, which, spoiler alert, that's the big life update, because I have not a new job, but a second job. And at the second job, I was actually at one of the locations I was at. Someone was making huli huli chicken. And so I, every time I passed by, oh man, I just wanted to get some of that chicken. It looked so good. I ended up not getting it because the location I was at actually provided me food. So yeah, I went with the free food because I like getting free food, and any chance that you get free food, you should probably take, in my opinion. So anyway, ever since then, I've been wanting huli huli, and so when I made these thighs and I used this new seasoning mix, I thought, man, what if, how is this going to taste? I was very curious about it because I used my smoker. I used the Pit Boss competition blend of pellets, which is, I feel like it's a very neutral pellet mix. Like you can use it for pretty much anything versus like hickory or, I have a love-hate relationship with hickory. Sometimes it's a little bit too much on chicken. Sometimes you can get it just right. But this competition blend you can do, that's what I use for my carne asada. I used it for my nachos, and then I used it for my chicken that I'm talking about. And that chicken tasted a lot like the huli huli that I've always had. Like, it was so good, and I was in heaven because I love huli huli. And I know I should have probably known the name, and I'm sorry. But now I know. Like, literally, I didn't know the name because I just go and I ask, hey, can I get some chicken? Can I get some chicken and rice, please? And sometimes they have mac and cheese or like coleslaw and stuff like that. Oh, so good. I love it. I need to go get myself some. Next time I see a Hawaiian or Polynesian food truck, I need to get myself some. Love that stuff. I guess that brings me to the life update. For the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been part of a new organization. This is a weekend gig that I've taken on, and I just saw a really, really good opportunity for myself to to grow in an aspect that I've always been interested in. And that...
To answer your question, Sorbus is a genus of over 100 species of trees and shrubs in the rose family. Rosacea. Species of Sorbus are commonly known as pine, rowan and service tree. The exact number of species is disputed depending on the circumscription of the genus, and also due to the number of aromatic microspecies, which some treat as distinct species, but others group in a smaller number of variable species.
All right. Well, that was a little bit creepy. I did not ask Siri anything, or Google, or whoever that was. I can ask my wife if she asked Siri something, because that was a little bit weird. Yeah, that was weird. Anyway, lost my train of thought because stupid Siri. Oh yeah, I started a new job. This opportunity is with our local youth football organization, and basically what the premise of the job is I set up these like 15-foot tall cameras that record football games. And yeah, it's really cool. They're actually AI they use AI to track the football. They automatically zoom and follow the ball and follow the play and stuff like that. So it's really, really cool. But also a part of this opportunity is for me to I'm part of the media team. So I take photos along the sidelines. You know, I'm the only person besides coaches, players, and refs who can walk along the sidelines and take photos. And so, yeah, I, gave myself a little bit of an opportunity to shoot some sports, action photography. Now, I don't have the best equipment for it, but so far it's been working out okay for me. I mean, I get a few shots here and there. The issue is I dropped my zoom lens in Moab a few years ago. We were hiking up Corona Arch and it fell out of my camera bag because I forgot to close it all the way. And me and my buddies watched as my camera lens tumbled down this cliff, essentially. And eventually this little kid actually found it. He brought it back to me. He's like, "Hey, I think you dropped this." And I was like, Thanks, buddy. So yeah, my nice zoom lens, which would be very helpful for this type of thing, is gone. I mean, I don't really have the money to buy a new nice one. So yeah, I've been shooting these youth football games, high speed action sports with an 85 millimeter macro lens. And I mean, it's worked out. It's not ideal, but it works. It's the best lens I have for the job. I mean, I have an 18 to 55 millimeter and a 35 millimeter, and that's it. So yeah, I do what I can. And I mean, some of the photos are actually good enough where I give myself an opportunity to create posters and trading cards for some of the kids. So that's a work in progress. I'm still working with the league to, sort of square that away to see if there's any compensation for me involved with that, because I just started doing it as, to gain some experience, to get some practice, add some stuff to the resume and stuff. But yeah, anyway, this is, I felt like this was a really cool opportunity for me. This organization, which is the Ute Conference Football League, they're a youth football organization, and they've been around for a long time. I think it was actually the same organization that I played for when I was 11 to 13 years old. I played, I think, 3 years of youth football before high school. And I just remember, I used to actually work for a company, which I think doesn't even exist now, which is called Sports Films. And essentially, I would be the camera operator on these 15-foot cameras. I would have to manually zoom in on the ball, track the ball, do all that myself. That job sucked. I think I quit after 2 or 3 weeks because the way they worked was their pay was based off your performance. So if you missed plays or if you, didn't catch a play, you get docked pay and stuff. And I always got broken equipment. They taught me how to set up the equipment, but they didn't teach me how to set up equipment. Like essentially, they gave me like a 12-foot camera to start with, to practice with. And then they ended up giving me a 25-foot camera at some point, and I didn't know how to operate it because they didn't properly train me. So I quit. It's kind of a BS job. Anyway, sorry, my dog interrupted me, so I had to go grab him real quick. Yeah, that job was BS. It sucked. The pay was not worth it. So I quit and moved on. But part of the reason why I wanted to rejoin this organization, to join this organization as a person of the media team, was because when I was on those, when I was on those films, or when I had pictures of me taken, it was really cool, and it made me feel like, like a star football player, even though I wasn't like a star football player. But for those kids like me that were really into football, and those are memories that you really cherish forever. And having photo proof of it or video evidence of it is something that you can look back on and remember some happy times and times that ultimately, I think, changed your life. I mean, if I didn't play football as a kid, I wouldn't have played in high school. And I feel like football taught me a lot, about life, about sports, about everything in general, honestly. So that's part of the reason, most of these kids, a lot of them may not play high school, even less will play in college. And I don't know, maybe one or two will play in the NFL someday. So, that's part of the reason why I do it. And it's been a great experience so far. I've got some great photos and video, which I don't control because AI controls the video camera. But yeah, I have some exciting opportunities coming up with this side job of mine, the side gig, where I think next week we're going to be doing some testing and stuff. And I'm going to be using like the shoulder mounted cameras, that you see professionals using to capture sports. And that's the first time I've ever used one of those cameras. So I'm super stoked for that. And so, yeah, this was just a good opportunity for me. And it's been fun to sort of change the way that I've been doing photography, because for the last few years I've been mostly like a nature photographer, wildlife photographer, and while that's been great, sometimes when you are trying to gain an audience on Instagram or make money off of it, it doesn't become as enjoyable. And so for me to do this on the side where I'm getting paid, but I'm not necessarily getting paid to do photos, I don't know. Sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like sometimes when I'm getting paid, it feels like I have certain expectations I have to meet. Or when I'm, focused on Instagram, I feel like I have certain standard that I have to meet to gain views and likes and stuff like that. But when I do it for myself and I can do it for fun, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. So yeah, that is basically the update that I have for you all. So stay tuned I'm sure I'll be posting some of those photos at some point. I just have to get permission from, obviously they're youth football kids, so I'm not going to post any kids who aren't my own without any consent from parents and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm excited for the opportunities coming up, and I have a couple of podcast ideas that are in the works. I'm going to be reviewing Tears of the Kingdom, which I beat recently, and talking about more 49ers stuff. I'm sure they're 2-0 currently as I'm recording this, and they play tomorrow night against the Giants, and I have a good feeling. I have a better feeling than I did this offseason. So, and by the way, I am not going to talk about Trey Lance because that is over and done with in the past now. So I hope he has a really good career, honestly. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll let you know if there are any more life updates that come up, or if I try any more smoking recipes or any new recipes in general, and I'll be happy to share those and review some of the seasonings that I've been gifted. So thank you. This is Storytime with Chris.